All right, everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to go over chapter 4. Going to talk a little bit about how you become a police officer. Some of the things you have to go through to be able to become a police officer. Some of the things that possibly could hold certain people back from being a police officer. We're going to talk about the training academy. Then we're going to talk about what happens once you get out of the training academy. And a lot of folks don't realize that once you think you get through the academy, oh, you're gung-ho ready to go. Well, that's not necessarily the case. A lot of departments have additional training once you get out of the academy. So first off, let's talk about how can you be hired as a police officer. There are many different things that a lot of different police agencies are looking for. Most departments are going to be looking for someone with a 2-year college degree, 2 years experience, or 2 years military. It could be a combination of 1 year military, 1 year college. It just depends on that department's regulations as to how they look at it. I know for most departments that I've been a part of and have talked to, it's either a 2-year college degree, 2 years experience, or a 2-year military, um, depending on whichever one you have. Uh, Most departments go on a recruiting drive. Up until the last couple of years, recruitment has not been that big of a deal, but it's getting harder and harder for people to come into the law enforcement community. Many of you probably know some of the reasons. One of the reasons is the way the public perceives police now. A lot of people don't want to get into law enforcement for the simple fact that they're not going to be respected as much, and law enforcement is kind of looked down upon at this particular time. And we need to be able to reverse that trend and get law enforcement back to being respected again. Some of the testing requirements that you will probably have to go through to be hired at a police department is a written examination. At the Tupelo Police Department, when I was over our hiring process, we had what we called a work keys test. Some of you have probably taken this or have at least heard of it. It's something that can be taken at most community colleges. It basically just gives an example of how well you comprehend reading and writing abilities and how well you are in math. We want to be able to have recruits who can at least read on a certain grade level and at least write on a certain grade level. So that work keys test has been invaluable for us to be able to uh, hire folks with a certain competency. Another thing you may be looking at, and once you're hired, or excuse me, once you're through the testing process, is an oral interview. The oral interview usually goes before a board. Usually 3 or more people make up that board. Then what will happen is, based on the questions that they ask you and the answers that you give, the board will make recommendations to the chief. The chief will then make his um, hiring process as to who is to be hired based on those recommendations. Just because the board recommends someone, though, does not necessarily mean that that person will be the one hired. The chief ultimately has the say-so in the end, but this process hopefully makes it more fair for everybody in the long run. And from what I've seen, especially on my end, because I was over the hiring process at the city of Tupelo for many years, the chief hired most of the people that were recommended. I can only think of maybe one time because he had some type of personal knowledge that the board did not have on someone. But for the most part, the chief is going to take the recommendations of the interview board. Once you go through the interview board, you'll probably have a background check, a background investigation on you, whether you've had any type of criminal activities. And this is usually done before the interview process. I don't know why in the book they put this after the interview process, but backgrounds are usually done before the interview process. Let me just put that out there real quick. If you have any type of felony, back when I was doing hiring, you did not come for an interview. It was just that simple. Um, the background check basically consists of any type of felony or misdemeanor charges, any type of traffic citations. We also dive into some of your financial history. If you owe large sums of money, you may not be a good candidate. Simply for the simple fact that we have to have people we can trust, and a lot of times we're around large amounts of money, so therefore we don't want any temptation there. If you owe large amounts of money to someone and you're around large amounts of money, you could be possibly tempted sometimes to take a little bit of that money and try to pay some of your bills off. So we also take a large look into your financial situation. We also dive in to some references. We check all references, and we try to talk to those people who know other people that you may have not have mentioned, to be able to talk to them and get some type of insight into you, especially since this will be our first encounter with you. We want to know as much as possible. Polygraph examinations. Not many police departments give polygraph examinations. I'm just going to be honest with you. One, they're not reliable to a certain extent. Plus, we cannot use it against you anyway. I have seen instances where someone gave a polygraph for hire, not necessarily for hire, but for investigation purposes. But I've never seen a polygraph examination given at the local level for someone to be hired. But it is a possibility. I will give you that, just depending on how the makeup is of that particular department. You will be drug screened, obviously, for any type of narcotics. Prescription drugs are some of the things that they're testing for now. So if you're on any type of prescription drugs, make sure that you disclose that before you go to the drug screening. Some prescription drugs are excusable, some are not. So you just have to make sure that you disclose all of that. You will need a medical history, a medical or a physical examination before you are hired and go to the academy. This is required of all academies in the state of Mississippi. Is you must have some type of physical showing that you are in some kind of shape, no heart problems, anything like that. If there are some type of medical problems, those can be discussed with the academy's director, and then that decision will be made at a later date. Some of the things people want to know is what happens in the academy. Well, as a former instructor from the Northeast Mississippi Law Enforcement Training Center, I can tell you a lot about it. We have what is referred to as day zero. Day zero, you usually arrive on a Sunday. Well, classes do not start usually until Monday. So the first day is day zero. It does not count. Even though you have to be there on a Sunday, we call it day zero. It is based along military boot camp. Certain academies are a little more lenient than others. I know our academy wants to make sure that you are in top physical shape when you leave the academy. So we start in on as soon as you enter the grounds with physical activities, and we're also harking on mental activities. And believe it or not, folks, for everything that we do at the academy, there's a reason. We're not doing things just to make you mad or to make you get aggravated at us. Everything we do has a reason. One is survival. When we train someone, we train them to survive. We don't train them to get by, we train them to survive. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of the things that goes on in the academy is strictly for survival. It's not that we're trying to do something to you intentionally. It's just that we want you to survive once you leave the gates of our academy. You go through firearms. You have a whole week of firearms. You have a whole week of defensive tactics, a whole week of driving. You do get sprayed with OC, and you do get tased. Um, those are requirements now. When I went through the academy, I went through the 9-week academy. It was the first 9-week academy of its type, and it was the last 9-week academy. Before that, it was 8 weeks, and after my class, it went to 10 weeks. Now the academy is 12 weeks, and that is for anybody who goes to a state or regional academy within the state of Mississippi. The only exception is for state troopers, and I believe their training is somewhere around 20 weeks, where ours is 12, theirs is 20. Um, they go into a lot of accident reconstruction, a lot of advanced training goes into highway patrol training. So if you're looking for highway patrol, expect a whole lot more than a regular academy. I'll tell you that much. Once you leave the academy, you then fall into what we call an FTO period, or a field training officer period. You will be put with a senior officer, and that officer will act as your FTO. Um, that person will be documenting things on you, seeing how you perform, basically grading you on decision making, how you write reports, everything from driving, how you drive under stress, everyday normal driving, things of that nature. So the FTO is going to be grading you and watching you every step of the way until he deems that you're ready to go out on your own. Another thing I want to talk to you guys about is stress. Law enforcement officers are put under extreme stressors every day, not necessarily from one particular thing. Of course, we have stressors from the media. We have stressors from the political heads above. We have stressors from our own teammates. The stressors of having to deal with certain crises, and it is a very stressful good job. If you're getting into law enforcement for the money, find another career. Because the only thing you're going to get is a lot of stress and low pay. We have a lot of cops that burn out. My suggestion, and one of the things that helped me through my 25 years, was moving around. I didn't stay in one particular position my entire career. I started out at the bottom. I started out in patrol. From patrol, I moved to crime prevention. From crime prevention, I moved to motors. From motors, I moved to administration. So throughout my career, I was in basically 4 or 5 different positions ending my career. I didn't stay in one path. So my suggestion is, once you get into law enforcement, get your feet wet. You have to go at least 2 to 5 years on patrol. You have to get that experience, no questions asked. From there, you can move to detectives. You can move to a specialty unit. You can go out to narcotics. You can get on a school resource officer. There are a lot of different things you can move to once you finish your 2 to 5 years on patrol. And if you don't want to do that, then stick around on patrol. If that's what you like, stick with it. Patrol officers are needed every day. The specialty units are fun. They make up a large part of the department, but patrol is the backbone, and that's usually where the most fun is. I'm just going to be honest with you. It can get stressful. It can get downright irritating sometimes. But patrol is, the backbone. Now you see these 2 officers who have tattoos. A lot of people have asked, well, can I have tattoos and can I become a police officer? It depends on your department's policy. Our chief at Tupelo Police Department did not like tattoo showing, so everyone who has tattoos now has to wear a sleeve. We can't have any tattoos showing. Other departments, you can show your tattoos all day long. Some departments will allow you to have beards. Some departments will not. Tupelo Police Department will not allow us to have beards. That's one reason why I have one long beard now, is because I had to shave every day for 25 years. Once I retired, I said I'm never going to shave again, and thus far I have not, and it's been almost 3 years. So just keep that in mind if you have a lot of tattoos. If you don't want to wear a sleeve, sleeves are not that bad, but in hot weather they can make you even that much hotter. Then in the winter, of course, you're going to wear long sleeves and it's going to cover them up anyway. But I just want to throw that 2 cents in about tattoos. Um, this week, I want to kind of pose a question to you. I know a lot of people have been talking about decriminalizing marijuana. My question for you is, how would you feel about an officer who uses marijuana coming to a call that you need assistance on? How would you feel about that? What do you think about the police officer being able to use it after being hired? Um, that could be a possibility if they decriminalize it. It could be something um, much like alcohol is today. You can use it while you're off duty, but the thing about marijuana is it stays in your system longer than alcohol does. So, what are some of your thoughts about that? Put that into your discussion for chapter 4. Don't forget 200 words. Oh, 200 words or more. Um, Make sure that you answer that effectively. Also respond to at least 2 of your classmates. If not, points will be deducted. If you guys need me for anything, please don't hesitate to holler at me. My phone number is 662-397-5959, or you can get me by email, which is probably one of the best ways to get a hold of me. tklaus@holmescc.edu.